You want to know who I think made away with Jimmy?
This is a new low. Do I really have to tell you who I think did it?
Well now, what will people think if I just start throwing out names?
Now, what have ye boys got up your sleeve here? Wants me to tell you who I think's got rid of Jimmy?
I got no problem telling you who I think's did it. Half the people in town are probably going to say me anyway, because I was the only one that called Jimmy out on his bull.
Boys are boys. Another way to pit us all against each other. I'll tell you, this is such a peaceful place to live until Jimmy went and got himself into trouble. Honestly.
I don't understand. You want me to tell you who I think killed Jimmy?
You want me to throw someone in this tiny town under the bus? What if my guess is wrong and I convict someone who's completely innocent?
I have a theory, but I really don't see why I need to tell you. This can't be that professional.
My thoughts? Well, my mind instantly goes to Joe Ryan. There's no way that Joe could let Jimmy Jenkins run up a $2,000 fine and simply not care about it. And yes, I know $2,000 isn't a lot to kill someone over, and people have been killed for a lot less, but, I mean, we live in Callit Harbour. It's not a town exactly full of money. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people here struggling to make ends meet, if you know what I mean. So, I mean, if Jimmy kept marking things up, then why didn't Joe stop him? There's something really fishy there about that to me. Although I do know that Hazel was actually trying to pay Joe off with a little bit of money she was taking in from her Avon thing. I really don't know much about it, but once she stopped, it was becoming much more of a bill, and she just couldn't keep up. I could see it was taking a toll on Joe. Whenever I was there, and Jimmy would tell Joe to mark something down, Joe would just smile and laugh along. He just, talk to him and have a general conversation until Jimmy left. And as soon as he was out the door, the look on Joe's face was, well, it was something else, that's for sure. It was a look of disgust. Disgrace, almost. Sadness, really. I really don't even know how to explain it to you. It was a look that you knew Joe just wasn't okay with everything and how it was going, and that he really did not want anything to continue. But it did. Every morning, well, at least every morning that I was in there getting my coffee before heading over to the plant, there was Jimmy asking him to write down more prices with his coffee and the knickknacks or whatever else he bought that he really didn't need for the day. It's still in my head now, but how much do you want to bet that Joe killed Jimmy because of all the money? Maybe it's just silly. But then again, Joe knows how faithful Hazel is, and maybe he figures she'll get a chunk of change when she collects some insurance.
I really cannot believe you're making me accuse someone, but I don't think anybody in this town is capable of making away with another person. Honestly, if I had to say someone, and I mean, forgive me for saying this, but Hazel Jenkins. Yeah, I only say this because the poor girl has been through so much when it comes to Jimmy. He's berated her, made her feel second rate, made up rumors about cheating and affairs. That poor woman. She can only take so much. She's such an honest woman, too. She was taking that mere pocket change she made with Avon and putting it straight towards Jimmy's bill down at the station. I often tried to refuse her money, but she wouldn't take no for an answer, and, in the end, business is business. She was determined to pay off Jimmy's bill, and here I was letting him continue to write down expenses just because I didn't have the heart to tell the man no. What a vicious cycle we were in. Anyway, one day Hazel stopped in, and I could tell she was angry. Jimmy was sick. She said that he had a man cold. And then she joked, saying that says he's down there dying, but I'll tell you what, if Jimmy's gone tomorrow, I'll use the insurance money to pay his bill. I don't know if that's motive enough, but it sounds like motive to me. I feel like if Jimmy were to disappear, not only are Hazel's problems gone, and not only would she be helping Vicky's troubles disappear, but her financial situation would also improve. Think about that for a moment.
Now, that ain't right of you to be pitting us against each other down here like that. But if you wants to know the truth, or if I must tell you the truth, I thinks it was that one Frida. When she comes into town, rumors starts to fly that she and Jimmy had an affair. Then Jimmy's going around telling everyone that she's just using Francis to be able to stay here in Newfoundland. Now, those types of things never crossed my mind, but people here started to believe it. When Francis first started dating Frida in St. John's, his parents were out here being fed this lie and that by Jimmy. They were calling Francis almost every night and telling him to get away from her. And after they met her, though, they realized she's not that bad of a woman. I don't know, though. If Jimmy's out of the picture, a lot of Frida's problems go to the grave with him. The rumors would stop about the constant affairs, and no one would be spreading the false gossip about her using Francis anymore. She could live peacefully. I says she only sends her youngsters up here to get some news from me. I bites my tongue when they're up here, though. I can't let them think I think it's their mother that made away with Jimmy. But that is who my money's on.
Boys, oh boys. Look, I already told ya. It's the quiet ones you gotta look out for. Vicky used to come in here about once a month or so with her mother to get her hair trimmed. And she'd sit in my chair and she'd size the place up. Smart and calculated, I says. Jimmy had her under his thumb. And it was no secret that he liked to tease and taunt her if she stepped out of line. It was like his sick form of discipline. If she stepped out of line, he'd berate her for it. It's a sin, really. But she wouldn't let him get away with it. I know she was waiting for the right time. With all the rumors flying and Jimmy having a falling out with just about everybody in the town. What a better time to do something like that. I told ya. She's smart. I figure she waited until now so it could literally be anybody here in this town. I feel so bad about saying something so negative about a youngster, but I really could see her motive. And we won't even get into how her father treated her boyfriend. Shocking.
Listen, I'm young and don't know half the people in town the same way everyone else does. But if you're going to make me name names, I'm going to say Patty. I told you before, I think he started half the rumors about me and Fodder. And I wouldn't put it past him if he didn't start half the rumors about Jimmy. Patty's good with cars and whatnot. I'd go down there for an hour or so and we'd work on cars together. While I was there, I'd heard about 15 different stories about this one and that one. Started telling me about how Jimmy was stealing crab off our boat and selling it up to Greenspawn and trying to make a profit for himself. Just feel like he's trying to pit us against each other, I don't think he took it too well when Jimmy started rumors about him and Jane. For sure, someone said something about Patty having feelings for Hazel way back. I was maybe a year old at the time, but Patty told me that one too. Anyway, it only grew from there. When Jimmy decided he would learn some tricks from the trade from Patty, and then he attempted to take business from him, I think that was enough to put Patty over the edge. Patty feels he's close with everyone in town. Jimmy wronged Aunt Bernie, he wronged Frida and Francis, he wronged Sharon, he wronged Joe. The list just goes on. I feel like trying to take Patty's business when Patty was trying to help him out was the last straw. I think Patty Jones felt like he was doing some kind of community service.
Listen, I don't have an issue with anyone in town, so get me to name someone is... I don't want to. But, if I were to guess, or just take a stab at it or whatever, I'd say it might be Sharon Pike. Especially after Jimmy ruined her business and reputation. I mean, it's one thing to try and ruin someone's business in Callit Harbour. I mean, you know, if it gets to that point, you can just pack up and leave. But Jimmy would try to ruin Sharon's reputation on social media. Yeah, I don't know. She's just so independent, right? I feel like she's just got that personality that, how does it go? Burn me once? You know the saying, right? Jimmy went after her with cheats and lies and burning down her reputation twice. And she wasn't going to let it happen a third time. You know?
Plain and simple. I think it was disagreeing. I feel bad talking about a young man like that, but I don't see it being anyone else. He has a reputation in town, you know. I feel like all signs point to him. Tiene que ser él. Jimmy treated that boy like dirt. He would call him names and berate him. You know, I would be in my house. I would be in my house and I'm on the deck, and I could hear Jimmy yelling from his house down the street. He lives down around the point, so he had to be yelling fairly loud for me to hear him. I could hear him calling Jesse a loser and other things I don't want to repeat. I feel like a young man like that, with something to prove, I feel like he took it upon himself to pay Jimmy back. I feel bad though. The boy doesn't have an education as it is, and like this could really ruin him. But everyone else in Callit is so level-headed.
Can I say everyone in Callit? They all had out for my dad. I don't know, but if I had to narrow it down to one single person, it would be Aunt Bernie. She and my dad used to be so close. She knows he has a drinking problem. She knows he didn't show up when Uncle Maxwell was in the hospital. She knows he cannot be trusted, and yet she entrusts him with a major duty, like being a pallbearer at Uncle Maxwell's funeral. Why was she so surprised when he didn't show up? Then she started treating our family different. I don't know, I just don't think she's as fragile as she seems. I think she had something to do with my dad going missing. She holds a grudge so easily, and I feel like she held one so hard against my dad that it wouldn't die until he did. Okay, I know. I know how foolish I must sound. But I wouldn't be surprised even if, I don't know, she had someone hired to make my dad go missing. She knows everything that goes on in this town. Everything! So why doesn't she know what happened to my dad? Because she had something to do with it, and she's playing dumb!
That's easy. If it was anyone who had anything to do with Jimmy going missing, it was Gar White. There are a few reasons I say this. Jimmy was one of the hardest workers up there at the plant, and Gar filled his head with how good he was and trying to be buddy-buddy with him. It made Jimmy think he was better than he was. He thought that because he was buddies with Gar, that he could take Crab and go sell it. After he started taking some product, Gar fired him. Jimmy couldn't even walk up across the neck after that without someone staring. Gar has a lot of money, and here in Callit, money says a lot. People follow you blindly if you have money. Gar owns the plant, and everyone thinks he's some kind of god because he provides employment for over half the town here. He would go into Joe's up there, or into Sharon's, and he would just get to talking about the type of man Jimmy was. He really ruined Jimmy's reputation. Anyway, he tried to mend bridges, and Jimmy would go up to the plant every so often. When products started going missing off of some of the boats, Gar automatically blamed Jimmy. Now, I know how it would look, given the history, but he was accusing Jimmy without knowing. He used to yell at Jimmy like a child every time he would go up around the plant. I don't know. He had it out for Jimmy, and I'll admit, Jimmy did steal a lot of product from his business. I just think it's fishy that Jimmy went missing as he was walking up across the neck toward his mother's. He was walking right in the direction of Gar. You know, there's a spot up across the neck that you walk about 1 kilometer and there's only trees, no houses, until you come to the stopping gas. I'm willing to bet Gar met Jimmy there. Have you checked the back of his truck? The woods up there across the neck? Gar has money. He's probably paying to have it covered up.
Oh yeah, I remember Jimmy coming out of the plant and filming me.
Right. I remember Jimmy saying he was going to be a famous producer.
Oh, Jimmy was down here with his phone in me face, telling me I'd be on CBC.
Jimmy always had some big aspirations. Said he was filming a documentary for Here and Now.
Right. The documentary.
Oh, yeah, I remember that documentary that Jimmy was making. Said he was going to put Callit on the map. Fool.
Yeah, I remember Jimmy telling me he was going to be a famous producer and I could be a movie star, like in a telenovela or something like that.
Oh yeah, Dad and his big ideas. Said he was making a documentary about the people of Callit. I said it'd be more like a soap opera. Days of our Callit lives.
You got the documentary footage from his mother? I didn't even realize she kept that silly thing. That was just Jimmy with another one of his grand ideas. Thought he was going to be famous.